Hello, hello everyone. So, yeah, here we go. Episode 5, I think now. Man, we're starting to crank these suckers out. So, yeah, we have friends again today. Kiki is rejoining us.
Yay, we have friends.
Hello, Earthlings.
And an old friend of Liam and I, back to when we were very young, actually. And we had a video game club years and years ago, back in, the 90s, and which we would stay up all night playing video games and drinking Surge, and really nothing much has changed since then. Our friend Bryant, how's it going, dude?
It's going good. Good.
So, how are you, brother?
Pretty good. Started work and starting to lose a bit of game time, but that's fine.
Hey, it's more money for more games, right?
Well, on the plus side, at least with my job, I can play handheld games at night. So,
Oh yeah.
basically, I'm losing console time, but I gain handheld time.
Yeah, and that's what the PSP or the Vita's for, man.
Well, I take my PSP just because I'm too terrified of anything happening to the Vita.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So, let's just right off the bat, what is everyone playing right now?
Destiny.
Destiny all day, every day.
You gotta love the whole whispering thing. Like he's been stuck in his basement, and he has this huge beard and all these cans of Rockstar and Monsters all over the floor. And he's just like
Open cans of baked beans.
All of that is correct, except I live on the 3rd floor of an apartment, so there's no basement.
But everything else still.
Yes, everything else applies, minus the basement part.
Just as long as you don't have random pot sitting right by your desk and poop and piss in that.
No.
Excellent.
The South Park WoW episode.
Which, for the record, I watched that episode a few weeks ago, and my fiance couldn't help but yell at me because during the episode I'm like, they can't do that in WoW. They can't do this. This character can't do this. What the hell are they doing? And she's like, oh
It's a
my
South
god.
Park episode.
Right? But it was just the fact of the matter.
Yeah.
I've spent 6 or 7 years, I can't remember, 6 years playing WoW, so you kind of get to know the game a little too well.
Dedication, right?
Yeah, you develop your life around it. So Kiki has been playing a game that I would say he probably will be giving a massively high review for.
Yep, I just beat the Evil Within today, actually, so...
I thought you hated it.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm kind of burnt out right now. I was sitting here and I just beat it and I'm gonna start playing Borderlands, and I just started clicking through all the downloaded titles, and I was and Liam's just staring at me, and I was I'm burnt out. I was I can't play another game right now.
Now, do you think that The Evil Within will be a game that you will actually end up revisiting, or is it kind of a one-time playthrough?
No. I'm most definitely gonna revisit it. I still have to do some collectible stuff, collection. They have me do this map or something. You have to find these tiles throughout each chapter, so I'm gonna try to complete that, and I'm gonna try to get some trophies from it.
Oh yeah.
Well, from the sounds of it, when he had played it through on normal and he beat it, it sounded like it had unlocked a bunch of content, sort of like with the other previous Resident Evil games where you beat the game and it's just you unlock this, you unlock that.
Right.
So there's definitely that perk to beating the game, and at that point it's oh, so now I can run through the game and it's a little bit easier, or I have this alternative thing to it. I think that's what a lot of games are missing nowadays. Is hey, you beat the game, like here's your reward, like to keep you playing, rather than hey, you beat the game, now play it on harder. And it's like, well, why?
Yeah.
Why should I?
Right.
I'm gonna play on hard mode because there's a trophy for that, so I'm gonna do that, and I unlock the machine gun, rocket launcher, typical Resident Evil, and 50,000 experience points, and then you get to get the character models, and so I'll be giving another run through on hard mode.
Very cool. It's always nice to hear that those kinds of games have that replayability, because not all of them do, unfortunately.
No. Sometimes you just play through it once, and if it's a campaign game, you're like, oh, I beat the campaign.
Right. The only reason why you would want to go back is for trophies. Like, oh, well, this trophy is actually pretty easy. I might as well redo it just for that. So, brother, you have been playing Borderlands. Now, what is your take so far in the game? Have you beaten it already?
Oh, no. I've only been able to put in some time into it, and because it plays a lot like Borderlands 2. So if you hated Borderlands 2, then I would definitely not touch it. But there's a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. And if you ended up playing obsessively Borderlands 2 like I did, then the little things stand out quite a bit. When people are talking to your character, you actually respond to them instead of being a mute character.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. But what's also really interesting is that other people know your character, so you're not just a random face. When you walk into Moxie's bar, for instance, I was playing as Athena, and Moxie had recognized me and said that she hadn't seen me since General Knox, which is the Borderlands 1 DLC. And I thought that was really cool that she said, "Hey, Athena." And it's like, whoa, she knows who I am. That's pretty badass.
Well, and the fact that they're bringing up, content, because, this is, of course, before Borderlands 2. It's kind of cool that they would have that, like, oh, yeah, you were there, because they do recognize your save files from Borderlands 1 and 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it gives you content, like, it supposedly unlocks, like, different skins and whatnot from the previous ones. And I thought that was pretty cool that for a game to sit there and be like, hey, you have previous save files. It's not too often that you see other games do that, where they say, hey, we see you have other game files. Now,
you obviously put time in our other games.
It's not Metal Gear Solid, like, awesome, but it's still pretty awesome. Because, let's face it, that whole, what is it? Mantis?
Psycho Mantis.
Yeah, Psycho Mantis. There we go. Him reading your memory card, that's probably still the coolest thing ever.
Oh, well, yeah, because it was totally unprecedented. No one had ever done anything like that before. And so, for as many different lines that they had that character do, because there were actually quite a few games that he would, see from your memory card and bring up.
Right.
And so, and then they ended up bringing that back, when they did the one for, I believe it was GameCube, the remake for that system, he could actually read files from your memory card for the GameCube as well.
Well, that's the cool stuff to the new Borderlands. I like that they recognize your character. There's a ton of customization. You get in this one you have to have like a oxygen helmet type of thing, and you get like bonuses from it. So aside from, oh well, this one lets you breathe air faster, or this one makes it slower, you get these shotgun perks or bonuses, you get these SMG perks. And so you end up spending quite a bit of time like trying to figure out which perks you're wanting for your character and how you want to build them up. But of course, that also means spending a lot of time trying to figure out what you want your character's build to be like. And the biggest complaint I have, though, is that while it's kind of cool to sit there and have the ability to jump all over the moon, and you get to kind of like do a glide thing similar to what's in Destiny, that's really awesome. Except for the fact that because of that feature, they want you to do like a lot of random parkour type of jumping where it's like it gets ridiculous after a while. You know, when you play the first Borderlands and you pull up the map, it seemed like there was a lot of empty spaces on the map that you can run around on and do different things. Whereas if you pull up the map on this one, it's like, what the hell? How do I get from point A to point B? Because there's so many lines all over this map.
Right.
You know, and then
at least you have a map.
well, yeah, that's true. That's true. That it helps a little bit, but like I said, there's so many lines and so many like, you know, there's different factors that come into play. Like you see a map and it's only a flat map. You don't see how to get into
elevation.
Yeah, like it'll show you on your map that, oh, the marker's right here, and it's like, okay, well, is that up or down? And you have to get like right in there till it finally starts showing you that, oh, it's way up top. And then of course you gotta spend 5-10 minutes trying to figure out how to get way up to this like top area, doing all these random jumps. And honestly, it takes away from the gameplay a bit, because you're sitting here and like jumping from ledge to ledge and then trying to figure out which ledge you have to jump onto next. So
well, and then it becomes just, it doesn't become like a familiar area. And that's the one thing that I really liked about specifically Borderlands 1. You know, if you, especially in that beginning area, if you're on the map, like it was so recognizable because you had this flat land that you could be anywhere. Like, okay, I recognize this area. I know this area. I know exactly how to get back to town. You know, things become recognizable. But when you have the elevation that kind of plays a factor in there, nothing becomes familiar to you because you're just jumping all over the place.
Oh yeah, that's what this is a lot of random jumping. And even as my friend said, while it's kind of cool at first, it's fact of the matter is that because they know that you can jump and you can do a glide, they throw in so many areas where you can fall off a ledge or jump over a ledge, and it just gets so old. Like after you die 3 or 4 times trying to jump to a spot, and it's like, god damn it. And you know how in the other ones you had the cars and the vehicles you would drive around.
Oh yeah.
So in this one, they do the same thing. They sit there and they give you the missions where it's like, oh, you have to go to 6 different spots within 3 minutes.
Oh.
And it's like you're trying to drive this vehicle and there's all these different elevations, bumps, and it gets really frustrating.
Yeah.
So it's a really fun game, and if you're a fan of like the characters that were in the previous Borderlands, you're definitely going to be in for a treat, because even though Borderlands 2 had its main storyline and then DLC, and this is supposed to be the pre-sequel, and I had expectations that I wouldn't see familiar faces like Mr. Torg or Tiny Tina. They do pop up, and it's like, oh shit, there they are.
Oh, and that's half the fun of those games. Like, you know, anyone who's played a Borderlands game, they know and love Mr. Torg.
Yep. He's still the same type of person.
like that uncle who drinks too much beer and screams and yells, and like,
well, it's like
good people.
He gives you there's a mission where you're helping a girl with this like laser rifle, because that's a new type of gun in the game, is a laser shotgun type of thing. And so it's all fine and dandy, but then Mr. Torg gets on to your little communicator thing, and he's all like, "Lasers are for wimps," and he's like, "Oh my god!" And he's like, "You know what you should do? You should blow it up." And you're like, "What?" And he sits there and he tells you that you should like give him the rifle so he can blow it up with explosions. And sure enough, he does his yelling thing, and where he's like losing breath, and it's the funniest thing. Like whoever did his voice acting did it perfectly, because he's like going off in hysterics. It's like that dude's like running out of breath from all that yelling. But then it's just like he throws like this oversized rocket at this fucking gun, and he's like, "You're the master of explosions." It's like, what the hell?
That's awesome.
Classic.
Oh yeah, it's definitely. I look forward to playing the game. I will be waiting a month or two before I'm able to pick it up, but you know, and
yeah, it's definitely. Even though, like I said, the whole jumping thing and trying to get onto different ledges, that stuff really sucks. But it's still a fun game. You can play through it. You can solo it. You can have the 4 people playing, and if you do solo, it's just like Borderlands 2. You're probably gonna die quite a bit because you have to get used to your character builds and you have to build up their stats, like the badass tokens. But after you've worked on that for a bit, then it's a lot of fun. But definitely do not play with anybody playing as Claptrap.
Is it because he is annoying, or?
It's not that he's annoying, it's just that they kind of made him into a buff character. And so there's times when, if you're playing with a friend, all of a sudden it'll say Fun Zerker on your screen. And you're like, what the hell is that? And all of a sudden your guns will start shooting. Like, they shoot non-stop for a minute, which also costs you bullets.
Oh, it does cost your ammo then.
Yeah, imagine you're playing Destiny, Borderlands, whatever else, and you're walking, and your partner went off and killed, 3 enemies. All of a sudden you see Fun Zerker on your screen, and your sniper rifle just unloads 15 bullets all at once into nothing. And all of a sudden, you're 15 rounds less on your gun. At the beginning of the game, that's quite a big deal.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I could see where later in the game, something like that, like you're fighting a raid boss or something, that could actually be quite useful. But early, you gotta really watch your ammo in the beginning.
To me, it's not really useful, just because the fact that, like, when you think about it, all it's doing is making you shoot non-stop, and it's not where you want, and it's not at the speed that you want. It just happens, and so it's more of an annoyance. Whereas, like, if I had control over where I'm shooting and everything else, then it's different. But it's a pain in the ass. But there is like perks, like if somebody is using Claptrap, and that whole like Fun Zerker aside, he has like one buff that all of a sudden it'll flash on your screen for everybody to melee, and all you have to do is run up to an enemy, hit them, and they instantly die because it's a one-hit kill.
Nice.
But at the same time, that does mean that you are having to run right up to the enemy and hitting them.
Well, now I wonder, with those buffs, they can't be random. They have to be something that you could control.
They're actually random.
Oh, that's wow. It doesn't seem good at all then.
Yeah, because when I was playing with my friend, she's like, "I am so sorry," and I was like, "Why?" All of a sudden, my gun is going off, and it's like, "God damn it!"
That's just not efficient at all. That's not best for anybody.
Yeah, it's like like I said, if you're playing, let's say for instance Destiny, and you have your rocket launcher out, next thing you know, boom, boom, boom. You're shooting all of
Yeah.
your rockets.
That could be very bad, especially considering you frequently kill yourself if you shoot a ball with a rocket.
Exactly.
But yeah, that aside, I did beat Dust this week in Elysian Tale, and I've got to say, man, after playing through the game, and I actually played through twice because there was a difficulty trophy. You had to beat the game on the second to hardest difficulty level, and that was the last one I needed. And because I enjoyed the first playthrough, I decided, you know, what the heck, why not? And I've got to say, if you're playing through the game and you couldn't care less about trophies, it's a fun game. You know, you put it on like a casual difficulty level, and you have a game that's beautiful. You have a storyline that it's not bad. I've seen worse. By all means, I've seen way worse. I've seen Destiny. But anyways, yeah, no, I mean, the game has an okay storyline, but the music I really like. The progression, you know, because it's an RPG, is pretty solid. And
for the record, right now, Brian's probably getting his shit pan ready to send to you.
But yeah, I thought it was a great game. I mean, I would say if I had to rate it out of 10, I would probably give it like an 8 out of 10. I mean, had a solid 12 to 13 hours, and that was with me going through and trying to get like all the different quests done, which there's only, I believe, 21 in the entire game, and they're pretty simple. Yeah. So, you know, for a free game, I was not disappointed at all. So, yeah, I mean, you do have to look aside that the characters are, as my brother calls, furries.
They are.
Because
the main character is a boy, right? Am I
yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
It's a bunny, right?
That threw me when I heard that the main character was a boy, and I like seeing the main character. I was like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah, he wears this like samurai type outfit, and he has the hat on. So, and then you have a female. I think it's a female fox elf thing. Or I'm not sure exactly what it is. I can't remember what they called it in the game, but that she kind of flies around with you. I mean, you know, like I said, if you have PlayStation Plus, you know, I think it's a great download. It's something to kind of bide you over a little bit. Just, you know, get away from
worse PlayStation Plus.
Oh, yeah. There's been way worse.
I thought the game had really good gameplay. The storyline was really kind of generic and kind of bland.
Did you like the way that the fights kind of played out with the combos and stuff?
Yeah, like I thought that was kind of cool. Like I said, I did like the gameplay for it, like the running around and then the combo system and being able to beat the shit out of things. But it was like I thought that the storyline, like whenever it showed the lead #1 enemy of the game, it never seemed like he was like aggressive looking. It seemed like he looked more like depressed.
You know, like, I get that too. It's because of the story. If you follow the story, from the sounds of it, yeah, he's like kind of ruthless and like, okay, he wants to go kill all the people of the Moon Clan, and because they are different. And like, okay, so this guy sounds kind of ruthless, but then you see him talking, and he's just kind of sad.
That's because his art design. It's because the game is like an indie title, and it's not like they're gonna really have much for the character art division. It was kind of lackluster, and maybe it's because of the furry characters, but it was like, I honestly didn't give a shit about any of the characters. I played through it because it was a freebie, and because I did like the fighting system in there.
I admit I did kind of do some minimal research, and I heard that there was maybe a second one that was going to be made. And I have to admit, after playing that first one, I would be interested in playing a sequel. It was fun enough that I think I would do that. So, let's go ahead though and change gears, and I would say that anybody who is part of our Facebook group, NES, we have seen where there's a lot of discussion with Destiny, and
I haven't noticed.
And what we have is one of the big reasons I really wanted to have Bryant come on is because, as anyone who is friends with him would know, that he's a pretty big fan of the series, and I have where my brother and Kiki have been pretty adamantly against the game, and I admittedly did get the game and played it.
It's pretty harsh. I wouldn't say I'm like that against it.
I mean, you don't want to play it.
Right.
In all fairness, he did play the alpha and beta, and you were excited about those, but then when the game really kind of came out, you were just kind of like, not feeling it. So, and I did get the game, and I played it, and I was just not feeling it. And so I kind of wanted to open up a debate here between someone who is very into the game and having people who are not so much, and kind of see where that can go. So I guess I'll just ask first, Bryant, you're the expert, I would say, in this.
Oh yeah.
Now, what could you say about the biggest complaint in the game for everybody has been universal, and that's, where's the story?
Yeah. They screwed up as far as the story is concerned. I'm not afraid to admit the things that they've, fallen short on or just completely left out altogether. There really isn't much story. I mean, if somebody were trying to ask me what Destiny was about, I would try to explain to them the gameplay before I tried to explain to them the story. Like, I would try to just tell them what you could do, what you couldn't do, and just, talk about how much fun it is to just play it. But if somebody were trying to tell me that they wanted a game that they could just really sink their teeth into, and, they really love character development and this, that, and the other, and they just wanted to really find out about the world, and I'd be like, yeah, don't play this game. Just go play something else. Play something that you can actually, enjoy the character development, the progression, and anything that goes along with that, because it's not in Destiny. The most introduction you get to your character is, a 5-second introduction at the beginning, which I've seen mocked, on other YouTube videos, and it's pretty funny to see. And it's true, it's very lackluster. You're just kind of thrown into the world. Okay, here you go shoot shit.
Yeah, and I think that was the reason why I didn't end up liking the game, because I have been in the past very, very big into MMOs, like I said, with World of Warcraft and a few other ones that I've played over the years. And then a big comparison that people have made to the game, and whenever I've explained it to people, is, well, have you ever played Halo? And so when I got Destiny, I was hoping that it would be that beautiful marriage of Halo meets MMO. And
Borderlands and all that.
Oh yeah, and so when I was playing it, and I didn't really understand what the grimoires were at first, but then once I did do the research, and I that's when I was kind of let down. I'm like, people put a game on because they do want to enjoy it and get to know it, and some people are not crazy about story, and that's fine. But they're like my brother and I, there's no doubt, like, we are usually into a story, a good story. So having to play a game where you're playing it and then you'd have to leave the game to go onto a website to read about the history of something, that did seem like a really bad idea on Bungie's part.
Yeah.
As well as I meant, this is something that they can fix, at least the pairings for like Vault of Glass, you know, or you have to kind of do extra work to get like a raid or something going, instead of just going, okay, I'm just gonna queue for Vault of Glass right now and see what happens.
That's where I'll debate you on that one. No way. No way. You want to talk about matchmaking in a raid? It's not. Maybe it'll work for other games, not this game. No.
Well, no.
Because
And
one person not pulling their weight, and you're gonna sit there for 10 or 12 hours and wait. You're literally just gonna be wasting your time. And then this random person, you might think that they just either suck, or they could just be trolling, and they could be in there screwing up your game on purpose. I wouldn't do it. No, I would never matchmake in a raid. Even if they had matchmaking, I would never submit myself to.
Well, and this is where I think that Blizzard has kind of done right, and that was with the raid system that they kind of implemented into World of Warcraft, and that was that. I mean, I do completely 100% agree that you go into a raid with people that you know, and you know how they play, and you know if they can pull their weight, you know you're gonna have a higher chance of success. But you know, with what Blizz did was they had that kind of the different tiers of difficulty level. You had the, you know, if you did a raid finder, you know, you would get paired up with random people in a raid, but they made it so it was a lot easier to do. You know, the enemies weren't nearly as hard, and so that way you could get the feel for the raid. And you did get gear drops, but they were just, you know, not amazing. You know, probably maybe slightly better than what you had.
Right.
But then you could go to the normal mode, which, you know, that was when you actually had to do work and, you know, go to your in town or go to your guild and say, hey, anybody want to do this raid? And of course you had where you could go to, you know, heroic difficulty level where, yeah, you're gonna get like amazing gear, but you know you're gonna likely get your ass handed to you if you have no idea what you're doing.
Right.
And so I felt like if they could do something similar to that, it would be a little bit nice, because having an idea of how a raid runs and seeing it, like, okay, these are the different, you know, events that are going to happen, just having the exposure helps so much.
Yeah, that would be an option. They would definitely have to change things. If they left it the way it was and created matchmaking, it would create nothing but confusion and frustration, and it would only detract from, you know, the frustration that people already have with the game. So it's.
I think Kiki should throw in his input, because it's been kind of quiet over there.
Oh, I'm just letting everyone go and say what they need to say.
Well, and I am actually very curious about, well, what both of you think, you know, because you guys have been I think out of everyone I know, you two have been really the most vocal, I would say, about Destiny. So I'm kind of curious, like, what is it about the game that you're not feeling?
No story, no character development. They don't talk. It's just generic. It looks blah. And I keep reading everywhere, even like hardcore fans of the game are disappointed that they paid $60 for a game and it's pretty half-assed. Everything has a cap on it. You can only do certain things like every day or every week or whatever the hell they say that you can do certain things on. I mean, if I'm paying money, I want to have full access to this game. I don't want to be limited to what I can and can't do in the game. If I'm putting my money down for it, I want to be able to do what I want to do in the game and not be told, hey, you can only do this once a week or once a day. Like, that to me is dumb. Also, being forced to play with other players. I mean, I think Brian told me that you can just put it on a private or whatever and just solo it. I didn't know you could do that. So that was my main gripe on it, is like, I don't want to be forced to play with people I don't know. Like with Borderlands, if I can solo it and I don't see other people in my game, that's awesome. Oh, hey, Liam's online. I'll invite him, and then, you know, we'll start playing together. Like, that's what I like. The lack of story. I am a very story-driven gamer, so there's no story. I asked a couple of our friends, hey, so what's Destiny about? No one could tell me what it was about. They would just mention the bad guys' names and your characters' names or whatever the hell they are, and that was pretty much it. That was all I would get. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't like it. I played it when I was like in the testing phases or whatever. I did, what was it, the Warlock or whatever. I did like it, but then I started reading all these things, and then people were complaining, and I was just like, nope, I don't want it.
You know what's
So.
kind of, I mean, funny is because I did end up taking my game and selling it to GameStop, was that I thought it was kind of bad that while I was in there, like there was someone else that ended up coming in as well to trade in Destiny, like, and the guy that was working at GameStop was like, yeah, you know, this actually is happening a lot. And this was only a couple weeks after Destiny came out. You know, a lot of people apparently have been taking their copies back because they're just not, a lot of people feel as if the game is only half complete.
Right.
Yeah, no, I would say I would agree with that. I mean, it honestly feels like they took the content that they had for the game and they cut it out. And then, I mean, everybody blames Activision, but I don't know if it was Bungie agreeing or...
Isn't
I don't know if
Activision
it was...
part of Call of Duty?
Yes.
Well, yeah, they produce Call of Duty. So any Call of Duty game that comes out, it's going to have Activision's hands in it some way or another. Whether it has different developers like Treyarch or Infinity Ward, any of the different, you know, developers. There's, I believe now 3 different developers for Call of Duty, but Activision still produces all 3. So what my take on it is, and this is kind of, it's the word on the street, if you will, is that
The word on
there was the guy that wrote the storyline for Destiny basically he quit Bungie because what happened was he wrote the story, had storyline, this epic adventure, he would go across space and so on and so forth, and then they came in and said, no, that's too much, you got to take all this out, and instead just make it about shooting things, and that's enough. And
So basically Call of Duty.
yeah, basically, I mean, flat out, like, I've played every Call of Duty since I can remember in some way, shape, or form, and played all the campaigns. I couldn't tell you a single campaign character's name. Like,
No.
I gotta say, I fully admit, if Call of Duty went back to doing World War II games, I think I would buy.
oh, hell yeah.
Oh, especially on
Yeah.
these newer generations of, you know, like
That's
PS4, that'd be sick.
That's what I'm waiting for. I won't buy another Call of Duty until that happens. But, and I think it will eventually. I think they're going to be like, wow, people actually want like a World War II, you know, revamp. Because
You know what? You know what's funny about that is, like, during PS2 and Xbox years, that was like pretty much all you saw for shooters, and people got sick of it. And now it's like, no, now we actually
take
want
us
it.
back. Yeah, take us back. We got sick of the advanced warfare stuff. So, but yeah, on the Destiny, you know, they stripped it. They took it, you know, and they put all that content. All the Grimoire cards were basically written off of the content that was already in the game. They took it out of the game and they put it in the Grimoire cards, and that's how you get your storyline, which is very stupid. It's very, you know, nobody's going to want to go read the backstory except for people like me that do it just because, like, Don't get me wrong. I went back and I sold the last Call of Duty game that I bought. I sold that back to GameStop, which was Ghosts. And I don't plan on buying Advanced Warfare because if I'm going to play a shooter, this is by far still the best shooter I've played in years. So if you want to just say, oh, this is going to be a great shooter, Destiny, like for sure. There's no way around it. I would tell somebody to buy this over Call of Duty any day. But if they were like, I want a great role-playing game that I can just delve into, I would tell them to go find something else because that's not what this is. So that's what keeps me going back to it. If it's, I'm trying to take away from it what I can and enjoy it for what it is without, completely saying that the game is, a letdown altogether.
Now, do you think that you'll be in the long haul with Destiny? I mean, they're saying 10 years worth of DLC and story. I mean, do you think you're going to follow it all the way through?
Well, yeah.
I don't see it being that long, to be honest.
Well, here's the thing. I think because of the amount of response that we're already getting out of Bungie in terms of feedback and so forth, with the updates. Okay, the game has been out, September 9th. So the game has been out a little bit over a month, and they've already released 3 different patches, and they do weekly updates to kind of keep everybody in the loop about what they're looking at, the things that they hear people saying the most, and they're very, very in tune with their fan base, which is awesome. It's great. You need to be, especially with a game that you're talking about is going to be an evolving universe. It can't be static. It can't just remain the same, otherwise people will get bored. But I think one of the things that they're going to do is they're probably going to start showing, I don't know if they're going to have a meeting with Activision and sit down and be like, yeah, you see all these comments here where people are like, we need story. Yeah, we told you so. And then come DLC time, all this story that we're lacking is just going to be there. It's going to get unloaded on us because a lot of people wanted story coming from Halo. A lot of people wanted story coming from Call of Duty. That's one of the reasons why we wanted this game so much, because Halo had it and Call of Duty didn't. So you either wanted it because you were used to getting it, or you wanted it because you never got it before. But one way or the other, you wanted something, and it's not delivering on the story end, and that's, it's a sad thing.
I personally have to give a little bit of opinion on that, though, just because of the fact that, let's be 100% honest, if you're going into a shooter game and expecting a giant, phenomenal story, you're probably gaming a little bit wrong there.
Well, Halo
there's not too many. There's not too many games that have a fully in-depth story. Halo has some story, but
Halo had a big story, dude.
Halo was epic.
If you compare it to BioShock, though, BioShock has a way more storyline to it.
I'd say yeah. I mean, I've played both games, so
here's one for you. Okay, can you name off other characters other than Cortana and Master Chief for Halo?
As far as
names,
just main characters,
actual names of characters other than those two.
I mean, you have the Flood is kind of generic. I mean, they're just.
But that's my point, though. Can you give other names?
Well, and I do understand what you're saying. I do get it. But I'm just saying that to say that first-person shooters are not going to have story, I mean, you got to look at Halo's one of the biggest first-person shooters, I would say, probably ever. And that game did have a big story behind it.
But here's the thing, though. If you ask a lot of Halo players, what did they really like with Halo? Chances are most of them are going to say multiplayer.
Right.
Because that's the biggest thing is that I've heard with the new collection coming out is, what is the multiplayer going to be like?
The retuned maps and everything.
There's nobody asking about
Story.
additional story content being added to it. There's no is there going to be DLC promises? No, all that matters is the multiplayer maps and everything else. They don't care for the campaign. That's the first person market nowadays.
Yeah, it's just all PvP.
Yeah.
Like that's my thing with Destiny is when I played the alpha, it was totally awesome to me. I loved it. But then when I played the beta, it was like, why is it I don't feel like playing this? Like, I got up to level 8, and then I didn't feel like touching the game anymore. Like, I had done my part, and I was like, okay, I'm bored with this. And then it was like, as the time was leading up to release, it was like, you know, I have a feeling that because it is Bungie and Activision, it's going to be more focused on PvP as opposed to solo campaign, which, you know, for other people that's cool, but for me that's not my type of game.
Exactly.
To be perfectly honest though, in terms of that, like coming from somebody who plays it, probably a good, I don't know, I probably spend at least 2 or 3 hours a day on it. I can't, like, I just to get the daily stuff done across 3 different characters and things of that nature, it takes up, you know, a good amount of my time, but that's all PvE. Like, there have probably been quite a few days where I never even touched Crucible. Like, they actually did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, on the PvE standpoint, because I probably do that coming from somebody. I do better in PvP than I do in PvE, which is kind of backwards. Most people who are really good at PvP, for some reason, you know, obviously you're going to excel against AI versus an unpredictable other player. I don't know why I do backwards. I think it's because I like bull rush into a situation like I do in PvP, and people don't expect that. I don't run and hide, and I catch people off guard. But anyways, I do more PvE, and that's just because of the I don't know if it's because of the raids. I don't know if it's because of just the people that I play with do a lot of PvE, but I don't know. There's enough content there, in my opinion, to keep you interested in PvE, and you never have to touch PvP.
But aren't the PvE missions or whatever they're called in Destiny all recycled? After a while, you just keep playing the same ones over and over and over.
Well,
that was the response I was reading, but then again, like,
yes,
I don't think that's too different from any other game. Like,
especially MMOs.
Yeah. Like,
most of the time it's, go kill 6 of this thing. Go collect 7 cherries. You know, this is the way that MMOs are.
Yeah, the missions do get a little bit recycled, but I think Bungie did a pretty good job of keeping it interesting in that usually when it seems like, okay, I've done this way too many times already, and I really don't want to do this mission again, and then it comes across, they'll do a good job of changing something. You know, throwing, which it may seem minimal, but they'll throw a mob of enemies that, you know, might usually seem really, really simple, like some shanks or something. If you guys remember from the beta, like they'll throw a mob of shanks at you that have like a high level and full solar shields and have a burn on their weapons or something like that, so they just mow you down, and you're like, holy shit, this enemy I used to just one hit and it would disappear is now like a lethal squad of, you know, assassins. And that it keeps it interesting. You know, they try to do things to try to, you know, encourage people to play those sort of things, because otherwise they do feel recycled. They feel a little bit lackluster, and it does get old. But I think that the main thing is holding out for the raid. There's a lot of people I know that have played it and, you know, haven't actually touched the raid yet, and they're like, oh man, I'm getting bored. And then I pull them into a raid and they're like, what the fuck am I playing? They're like, this isn't even the same game. Like, yeah, it is. It's just different. You just
raids are always different.
There's so many other components, and I heard somebody just the other day say something that kind of, you know, struck a chord with me, and it's maybe something they'll implement later. And they were like, why didn't they do this throughout the rest of the game? I was like, well, it's a good point. Like, why is this the only mission that incorporates this? Why aren't there other missions that incorporate certain aspects of the raid? Because that's like the only one. I don't know if they wanted to save that sort of gameplay for the raid, but I didn't have an answer. I was like, I don't know. It's just the raid. That's the only way you can, enjoy that sort of, content or mission.
And it's always exciting.
Try to force people into it.
Like, because you can do, and I never touched the raid in Destiny, but with playing World of Warcraft, like, going into a raid for the first time is so exciting because you're seeing a new area. I mean, you can do all the dailies and all that crap all day long, and yeah, you get bored of it. But then the joy of getting into a raid and seeing all this crazy stuff that happens, and then you see this crazy boss, and you get the gear that drops off of it, and you're just like, holy cow! Like your joy for that game really does get a spark, and
yeah, we won't talk about gear drops in Destiny.
See, that would definitely piss me off. Like, I know people have said that like the gear drops in Destiny are when it happens, it makes it more worthwhile and everything else. But I'm sitting here and every time I read that, I think to myself like, yeah, except for I played the beta and alpha. And when I got a gear drop, it was like, yay! Oh, wait a minute. This gun sucks. Sucks huge ass. And it's like, their response is, well, it's not like Borderlands where everything is given to you. It's like,
if you do a raid, you should or do something that's really hard, you should get something that's halfway decent.
Yeah,
you don't want to take out a mob of like these super elite enemies that are hiding or like in front of a treasure chest, and you're like, because other games, that chest has something badass in it, so you're gonna take the risk and fight that horde of enemies. And most other games you get up and like, oh, you get a purple item, legendary or something. Destiny, yo dog, we're gonna give you a blue.
Yeah.
That like is crappy.
Well, even with Borderlands, I mean, how many times did I take down the raid bosses and then there was like really nothing worthwhile? That happens quite a bit, and it's just all that happens is you just sell all the crappy guns for money, and after a while, it's like, you can go to the shops all you want, but there's nothing worthwhile there,
Yeah, basically the only thing you're going to shops for is just to unload all your crap, but then, what are you using money for? You get to a point in any MMO or, RPG where it's like, well, I already have, like, all these different, like, healing items, and I have gear that there's no way that whatever you have will ever replace what I have, so, like, money becomes something that you don't need.
Right.
And you definitely see that in Borderlands. I remember, not, it doesn't take much. Once you get towards the end game, everything that good that you're going to get is going to drop off a boss.
Right.
Yeah, that's not far from Destiny, and I really can't. I mean, yeah, the drops are pretty scarce, but
I'll be right back.
All right.
The drops will be pretty scarce, but in terms of rarity, I'm glad that they haven't fixed it. I don't want it to be spoon-fed, because then those guys, I think the biggest complainers, the raid drops and so on and so forth, are the ones that do it once and want everything their first go. I did the raid one time, I want all of it. It's like, dude, that's not how it works. Like,
yeah, that's no.
Well, I see exactly 100% what you mean, but I think that maybe make it so that there is a chance. Like, maybe, I mean, it doesn't have to be a 100% drop rate. Make it maybe a, I don't know, 10% drop rate. Something like that. But I've heard that the drops for them are ridiculous, like really low.
If you get into the raid, there's four drop points basically in the raid, and it's 4 drops for normal, 4 drops for hard, and it stacks. If you just do it on hard, you'll get both drops, so you can get 8 drops in one raid. But it's pretty much guaranteed that when you go through certain aspects of the raid, you're gonna get something somewhere along the line, be it a weapon, be it a piece of armor. Now, the thing that I think it falls short on is, I don't know if any other MMOs or anything like that have ever done this, but I wish it was more intuitive, because I've got 4 raid helmets. I only have 3 characters, and I only need 2 raid helmets technically, so the reason it keeps giving me raid helmets, I don't know. However,
and maybe just the percentage on the helmet is higher.
Negative. That's the only way that you can even get raid. Yeah, that's your. Let me random number generators. Let's do this. Okay, random number generators for drops. The raid helmet is supposed to be one of the hardest armor drops to get. You can only get it when you beat Atheon on hard mode at the end, which I have 4 of.
Okay, that is weird.
However, you can get the gauntlets and the boots from normal or hard on any of the other drops throughout hard, including the end. So doing it on 3 different characters, 8 drops a piece, meaning I get 24 drops a week, and I have 4 helmets and not a single pair of gauntlets and not a single pair of boots. So I'm either insanely lucky, depending on how you look at it, considering the helmets are supposed to be harder to get, or I'm insanely unlucky because I don't get the easier items. I just keep getting the ones that are harder to get that I have no need for.
Right.
So,
now, I've heard that another thing that they are kind of infamous for doing is you will get a drop, but then it's for a different class.
Well, that happens in Borderlands too.
Yeah, that's a random. Only when you get an engram. You know, if you get a decoherent or a legendary, or only when you're decoding something. You won't ever run around the world and just pick up a random item, or you won't ever get rewarded a random item for the game. And they, I think they turned that down even. It used to be worse, and I think part of the first patch, if I remember correctly, the patch notes said that they turned down the probability that you would be rewarded an item for a class other than your own, which was nice. It still exists, but because of course there has to be that chance there, but it's still still not cool.
Are you able to transfer gear like between your 3 characters? Like in Borderlands, they have the vaults or whatever, and you put items in there.
Yeah, same thing.
Right,
yeah,
cool.
For those people that are or play with me or whatever, know that I kind of call it strategy, call it what you will, but I just made 3 warlocks, so that way all the gear that I get, I can transfer back and forth between characters and never have to worry about it being for a different class, something like that. Nice. I just made 3 of the same ones. The strategy seemed to work well so far. I won't always keep it that way. I'll change it, but I just want to get like a decent skill set for, one class at least before I, start focusing on the other 2. And I want to do that just so I can get the trophy, and then I'll probably delete it and go back to the 3 warlocks again.
Yeah, it seems like it would be, well, I don't know. I guess it wouldn't be too hard for you. I mean, if you've already leveled up 3, and I would imagine you have a pretty solid...
Well, that's, if you want to talk about letdown. I mean, letdown, or some people would like it. It only takes me like 8 or 9 hours to get a character to level 20.
Nice.
And that's after, playing through it 3 different times and knowing, how to do speed runs and whatnot, but... Some other people, I think my first time through, it took me a good 15, 20 hours at least. And it might for most, but it's, whether you want to call that a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. That just depends on perspective, I guess.
Right.
Well, it's when you love a game and you get to know all the ins and outs, and especially in any RPG aspect or game, you do figure out the fastest way to level. You get to find certain areas. I mean, there's no doubt that if you were to pop in Final Fantasy VI, I could tell you, okay, well, are you wanting to level your characters, or are you going to want to level your magic? Because, either one of those, I could tell you where to go and speed level.
Right.
So, so I wouldn't say it's a bad thing that you know how to speed level through that game. And hey, if it's, all that matters is that you're having fun, that you love the game. And
yeah, and I think that's the thing that a lot of people, don't get me wrong, this game was far overhyped. It was, and I bought into it. I think everybody did. It was something at one point that kind of, it was a scratch that everybody was ready to itch, and we all thought it was going to be something epic. It was going to be, like you said, that Borderlands meets Halo meets an RPG, and God, it was something that we all craved and all thought of, when no developer ever created for whatever reason. And then it came out, and then we were like, oh shit. It was 2 out of the 3 in my opinion. It's a great shooter and it's a great co-op game. It's lacking the story. It's lacking and that's, so it hit 2 out of 3 for me. And
well,
that's
actually,
the reason why I keep playing it.
Now that you mention it, there's 2 different things I should mention. A lot of the reviews that I had saw for Destiny were basically saying the same thing. A lot of people's opinions was that Destiny had tried to do so many different types of genres, squeeze so many different things into the game without priming on one, and that actually hurt it because it wasn't a really strong RPG type of feel to the game, but at the same time it wasn't a very strong first-person shooter.
Right. I still think
yeah.
I don't know where they get that from. But in my opinion, it's still
they're
way. Those are probably
a lot of
Call
times
of Duty
like
fanboys.
reviewers are going off of like their trends, and I don't think reviewers do spend too much time with evaluating games. But on another note, I really do think that, unfortunately, because of like hype and everything else, rather than it benefiting a game release, it really hurts a game, because like Smash Brothers got tons of hype, and it was like not even a week after its release, nobody posts about it on Facebook anymore. Like, it was dead to the world.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing that I feel is a big problem nowadays with gaming is there's so many games that are insanely overhyped, and they come out, and it's because I think it's so overhyped that it hurts the game. I mean, look at
it's pop culture. That's what we do. We obsess over a particular thing, and then as soon as something bad happens, it's blown out of proportion, and then everybody tears it to shreds. It's what we do to celebrities. It's what we do to everything. And it's just now trickling down to where we're doing it to video games too.
But Steve, back in the day, we had that mystery of, oh, well, there's games coming out when you would read it, like back in the day in the like magazines, the gaming magazines.
Trust.
They would give you like little things, and then nowadays with social media and the internet, they basically just give you, I think, a little bit too much,
especially too early on. Like,
exactly.
We're finding out about games years before they come out. I mean, Final Fantasy Versus is a huge one because of the fact that we've known about it for so long. It's like,
Actually, this kind of makes me laugh a little bit, considering like the people that we have on here with you, me, and Bry, because of the fact that I remember we used to go over to Bry's house quite a bit, and we'd sit there with tons of our official PlayStation magazines and Nintendo Powers, and we'd be all like looking at the 2 screenshots from E3,
right?
And we'd be all excited, like, "Whoa, look at this game! It has a mummy."
Well, and I think one of my most vivid memories is us, the 3 of us, and Bry's brother, and another kid that we hung out with named Casey. Like, I remember just one time we were in your bedroom, and we were looking through.
Hold on. No, I'm just kidding.
Look, bro, we were like, what? You were like 9, maybe?
Right.
But yeah, we were looking through the magazines, and I remember the
Video game magazines, not porn magazines. Let's get that straight.
Nah,
It may as well have been. It was video game porn because that was. I remember us looking through and we saw Final Fantasy VII, and in this one photo, it just showed all the characters from the main, roster, and then Sephiroth. And I just remember it was like a 2-page print, and all of us obsessing over these pictures, like, whoa. Dude, that guy with the yellow hair and the sword, that thing's badass. And like, just really, it blew us away.
Right.
This review of this game, and just looking at it, and of course going from Super Nintendo, and I can't remember what system you guys had at the time.
I think we had both.
But
We usually had
the same
either.
systems.
Yeah, we usually had Super Nintendo, and then we had a Genesis at the same time. And
That's
then
right.
When the 64 and the PlayStation came out, we had both.
Yep.
So we tried to
Did
dabble
you
in.
guys have like a Sega CD or something too?
No, we had a Dreamcast.
No, that's right.
Skipped over the CD though. We did have a 32X.
That's
Anybody
probably what I was thinking.
Classic.
Right. But yeah, I do remember us going through that and just like being so enamored by these character designs, and so it's kind of cool that after all these years, we're still all into it. And but yeah, it just kind of sucks because back then, that's all we had. Were these magazines and them giving us this exclusive look at Lara Croft's new triangle boobs, and now it's like you get a game and they just talk about it so early on that by the time it does come out, it's either extremely overhyped, or you're sick of hearing about it, or like, oh yeah, I forgot about that because they mentioned it 5 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
It kind of depends on the person, though, because in my case, I tried to not look into it too much with the new Borderlands, and so me playing it right now, it's all like, wow, this is so awesome. And yeah, I mean, I can't sit there and say that I'm let down by anything because I didn't read any hype behind it other than it's coming out. So I can't say that, it didn't live up to the hype or anything else because I didn't read into any of it. And I think that's the other thing with a lot of games is like people read so much into all the details that are constantly coming out, and then when the game does come out, there's not too many surprises in there, so it's just like kind of run through the game and it's like, that was kind of cool, I guess.
Right.
Next game.
Yeah, well, that all depends on the developer too, because, like in my case, The Evil Within, they were releasing very limited information on that game, and it was not overhyped or anything. Like, they were releasing like little like screenshots, and they weren't really releasing anything with the story, like anything related to the story or spoiling anything major.
Similar to how they're doing like Silent Hills right now.
Yeah,
Exactly. So I think it all comes. So I think it all comes down to the developers and what they want to release to their audience. Like I said, Evil Within, I was not disappointed by it. If I wanted to spoil it for myself, I probably couldn't, because after getting the game, I did go onto the wiki pages of it, and there was still no information on the plot whatsoever. There is no spoilers at all, unless you go into the comments.
They usually take a while to update all that stuff, because like even on the Borderlands one, there's no pages for like Athena, and the game has been out for almost a week now.
Yeah, so see that it all depends, I think, on the developers and what they want to release. So
it's a double-edged sword, because you sit there and you take a game like Destiny, for instance, and it's like it's a new IP and everything else, so it looks interesting, and it's like, okay, this game is going to be $60. do I want to spend that money on this game? And then you end up having to read about it and look into all this different content for the game just so you can know what to be ready for. So it's like you're ruining the game for yourself. But if you don't look into it, then it might be $60 that you just spent on a game that you're only going to get like $35 for when you return it.
True.
Well, and the big thing that kind of sucks too is, you know, in Destiny is a perfect example. You know, how many people do you think bought the game thinking it was going to be that beautiful hybrid that we talked about, and it's not, so they have returned it.
Yeah, when I went to
Watch Dogs.
Yeah. Like when I went to GameStop to see if they were going to have a midnight launch for Borderlands, and I was going to do my pre-order for Evil Within as well on the day before launch date, and there were 5 people inside the GameStop trading in their Destiny games to pre-order Borderlands. So that was pretty funny to me. I was just like, okay, well, I guess it's not that good of a game then. And that just...
It depends on the person, though, because in a lot of cases, I know that there's a ton of games that I like that either other people have never heard of, or they only played it for like 10 minutes and are like, no, this is not my thing. But as Bri has said on several posts, if you go in and have certain expectations and those are met, at least you're happy, regardless of what other people have said about the game.
Well, and the thing that does suck, though, is that a lot of times you're gonna want to look at reviews for a game, and with a game like Destiny, you don't have, well, we didn't have the reviews right up front, you know, and even now, like, because there's been so many people that have been disappointed, I feel like if there was anybody who had interest but maybe didn't get it, they're gonna look at the game now and go, oh my god, there's a lot of people returning this game and saying a lot of bad stuff. Not feeling it. But then you have that one, you know, fan of the series who is like, oh, no, you got to give it a shot. And so you're stuck in kind of like limbo, like, okay, do I go with my buddy who knows, or do I
always go with friend input, just because a friend is going to know what I like as opposed to a reviewer. For instance, you're always going to have people that hate your favorite games. There's going to be people that say Kingdom Hearts sucks, you know, like myself.
Off with their heads.
There's people that will say Final Fantasy VI sucks. They're going to say Halo sucks, Borderlands sucks, BioShock sucks. Every game essentially sucks.
Really, yeah, every game blows.
But
we're so needy. Like, us gamers, we're kind of needy douchebags sometimes.
Dude, like, when you sit there and you read about, like, what people complain about with some games, it kind of is. Like, it's so ridiculously funny what some people complain about with games. And at the end of the day, it's just like, just explore a little bit and see what you like and have that friend that does like similar types of games. Because if you have a friend that, if you like, you know, 70 to 80% of the same games that they do, chances are you should probably ask them about different games rather than going on to IGN or Kotaku and be like, hey, does this game, like, you know, get good, or is it awesome? By middle point, because I just started, I'm like undecided. You're gonna have like 50 people being like, no, it's gay.
Well, and that's the thing that's been nice for, I think, us, is growing up, we've had very similar tastes in gaming. So, like, I knew that, like, for example, when I played Dust, I was like, you know, I think he would like this game because, you know, like, the way it plays and stuff. So, you know, it wasn't so hard for me to recommend that. Whereas, even like Metal Gear, because I've been the big fan of that over the years, I knew that I'm like, you know, because of the story, I think he's going to end up being drawn into this. It's not an RPG, but these are very likable characters, and the story is so deep that he might overlook the other stuff. So,
Well, I remember I saw you play Metal Gear back in the day, and I have the games throughout the years, and they were really neat, but because of like the fact that there's so many other games plus age differences with like back then you play a game and it's like I want the story to be as blatantly obvious as a Dr. Seuss book, whereas nowadays it's like, okay, I need a little bit more detail about the red fish and the blue fish.
Right.
That's probably the greatest analogy I've ever heard.
It is definitely hard to see. Like, you're going to take away from a game what you're going to take away from it. I just tell people to play it.
Yeah, really, you got to base your own opinion. If you have any kind of an interest for a game, just go with it. Go with your gut feeling, and and especially if you got a buddy who maybe has the disc and they are cool and let you borrow it. What have you got to lose? Or if you give it maybe a little bit of time after the game comes out, go to GameStop and pick it up for pretty cheap. I mean, I'm sure. Like right now, I know Destiny's probably still about the same price, but you could probably get a used copy for $5-10 cheaper.
Well, you can rent it, or if you know friends, you could just borrow it. Like, obviously, I have my friends out here in Portland, and I could just borrow it from them sometime. But
that was supposed to be the beauty of PlayStation Now, but it's the prices are so jacked on it, and
well, hopefully this share play, like, I think that's going to be pretty awesome, pretty epic. So that way people can, just share the game, see if somebody likes it, and that'll be cool.
But at the same time, I know even though if I do borrow Destiny from my friends, it'll be like I'll probably end up just playing it for my days off, and I'll be like, okay, that was kind of neat. But then it'll be right back to playing Borderlands because that's what I prefer.
Yeah, it's a preference thing. Not only that, but these aren't games that you can just say, I'll put a few hours into it and then I'll be good. No, it's we all know it takes days of grinding.
Yeah, I mean that's the MMO, man. Like,
yeah.
I know we've all played MMOs, so it's like we know that, like, okay, if you want to really get the most out of this game, yeah, you're gonna be grinding.
Yeah.
But so we're going over an hour here, so I think that we're gonna go ahead and maybe start to close this thing up.
Are people still listening?
I ask myself that every time, man. Every time I'm like, yeah, I whenever I see that, like, oh, this, like, our first podcast, I think has had like 18 listens. I'm like, holy shit! Like, that's like 17 more than I thought because I count myself. So I'm like, apparently somebody's listening to this, and I don't know. So.
Watch. It's probably just Ryan. He's watching it on his home computer or listening on his home computer, then on his phone, then a different computer, and right there's like 3 alone.
I'll take it, man.
I just refreshed the page 4 times. I'm not gonna lie.
Like, we're gonna get them as much of these plays as we possibly can.
No.
So, would you recommend then? Would you recommend Destiny for people that are still on the fence about it, like to go out there and purchase it, or
I would tell
wait
you
off on it until the price lowers?
I would tell you to play it before you buy it. It's because I wouldn't want somebody to commit. Well, not only are you going to commit $60 at this point still if you're going to buy it, but you're going to commit a minimum. If you want the full experience, you're going to be committing about 60 hours, I'd say, of real gameplay between the story, the strikes, the raid. Like, give it a real chance and to not just wing it.
Yeah.
You can't just go in half-hearted on it. It's otherwise, of course, you're going to get a bad taste in your mouth from it.
Well,
You need
especially
to
when
get-
most people going into it, you're probably going to already have a bad taste in your mouth because of all the reviews from other people.
Well, yeah, exactly. And, put all that aside and go into it and just say, okay, what am I going to get out of this? And then, find out for yourself whether or not you like it. We don't know if those people who went and turned the game in at GameStop were just straight Call of Duty fanboys. And if they were,
they could have been like any type of person. They could have been Borderlands fans. They could have been GTA
Oh,
fans.
they could be
Right.
they could be really anything. It could be they just don't.
Probably
They could have
people-
liked the game, but they just don't have the time for it. So,
or
I've
they
got
need the money.
oh
I've
yeah,
got friends that played this game that they didn't know, they didn't understand the term grinding. I'm like, yeah, I gotta go grind for this, and they're like, what are you doing? I'm grinding. Wait, what? Yeah,
so are you putting your nuts on this game and rubbing it back and
Exactly.
forth?
yeah. So, but yeah, I would recommend it still. I mean, at the very least, if you like to just jump on something and play multiplayer and shoot other people in the face, then it's still an amazing first-person shooter. You're gonna have to do a bit of grinding in order to get to that point where you're not going into the crucible and just getting yourself destroyed. But if you're willing to put in a little bit of an investment, it's a far more rewarding game than Call of Duty. That's any of the Call of Duties that have been in recent years that I can think of.
Oh, cool.
Well, for me,
That's my final word.
obviously, Evil Within was well worth the $60. There was plenty of times where Liam heard me cuss at the TV in frustration and would poke his head out of his room and go, "Is that a sigh of frustration?" And the game is pretty difficult, even on normal. It's like Resident Evil 4 seduced Silent Hill, and then invited the Saw movies over for a threesome, and then ended up getting knocked up, and then this was the
And let's just say they're all
result of
female
that.
and it's a bastard child, just because.
Yeah, this is the bastard child that was conceived from that fun night. So basically, it's our Resident Evil 4 style camera over the shoulder. There is very limited ammo, and Liam can seriously he saw me playing it. I was literally punching bad guys because I had no ammo whatsoever. And
For
I was just-
the record, the reason to play Evil Within is because there's a vagina monster. Just gonna put that out there.
yes. The character design for the enemies is freaking insane. It's just super sadistic, straight up.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
don't
say
know.
Laura looked pretty wicked.
I hate her. So, the enemies in this game are very crazy. There's the keeper who is like the pyramid head of this game. He lays out traps for you, so I mean, it's pretty ruthless, and they never let up. They follow you. Laura, for example, she won't stop following you. Like even if you unload all your bullets on her, she will not go down.
So it's like
The only way to
Nemesis.
kill her is with fire. You have
Stars.
to run, and at the same time you have to deactivate the traps, and then you have to look up on the room and shoot switches to turn fire on to burn her, and it's just all these crazy elaborate things. And I mean, the game had me tense throughout the whole playthrough. My hands are sweaty. I mean, it's a really good mindfuck story, so it was worth the $60, and I will be doing a second playthrough to try to get those trophies. So,
Very cool.
and I'm looking forward to the DLC as well. So
This
you
may
get
be
to
a
play
super,
as Kidman.
one
so.
last quick stupid question on that, and I was surprised by The Last of Us in that it incorporated multiplayer. Did they try to do something like that in that game? Is there any kind of
Evil Within.
Yeah.
There is no multiplayer in this game. They
Okay.
did incorporate things from the from The Last of Us, like the whole bad guys being lured. Like you get bottles, you can throw them at certain spots, and then the enemies will react to the sound, and they'll go and investigate, which allows you to do sneak kills. If you come up behind them, you can do one-hit kills.
Right.
You can also use traps against them, like if you don't want to, deactivate the trap or whatever, you can lure them into the bombs or whatever, and they blow up. Like you can do that kind of stuff in the game to conserve ammo. But it was really good. Like after chapter, I would say, like chapter 12, then I started going down that whole Resident Evil 4 like shooter part, because he started doing like all these crazy like cinematic stuff with like machine guns and get on a tank, and it just started going like crazy. But it kept me going because I was just like, I need to beat it, and I wasn't disappointed. So hopefully they come out with the sequel, because it was really good, and I'm looking forward to the DLCs because you get to play as Kidman, which is the female cop in the game. So you get to see what she was doing, kind of with like Ada Wong in Resident Evil 4. You get to see what she was doing at the same time, whatever Leon was doing. So,
Right.
So I'm excited for that. So
I should point out that you weren't looking up too much stuff with Evil Within, so
It's pretty straightforward.
well, what I'm saying is that he wasn't looking into all the stuff for it before it was released. So,
yeah, I wasn't spoiling anything. Like I wasn't out there searching for like character names. I wasn't out there looking for story, plot, whatever. I was.
So it's
Well,
kind of like a little bit further proof that, if you're sitting here and you look up too much stuff with a game, even if it is a new IP, obviously you're gonna be way overhyped for a game, and then once it's released, you're gonna be like, oh wait, where's all the stuff that was promised like months ago?
Right.
You'll be let down. Exactly. So I think that's what Destiny did. Destiny players did wrong, I should say. The ones that are being let down by it, they probably looked way too much into it. I myself, for the Evil Within, I was very, very, very not wanting to know what the hell the game was about. I was just looking at like their Facebook screenshots and whatever they released, and the interviews with like the art people and the director and all that stuff. So yeah, I didn't spoil it for myself.
So it's like the rest of our lives. Lower our expectations and don't be disappointed.
True. True.
Nice.
So I would say go buy it if you like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, and the crazy sadistic Saw stuff from the movies. Then
That's why I'm
go and
also
buy it.
excited for Silent Hills.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. Well, Bryant, Kiki, thank you for coming on and having a nice long talk with us, and hopefully we'll get you guys back on again sometime and do some more ranting.
Definitely.
So
For sure.
sweet. All right. Well then, I guess I'm gonna close this up. We'll see you guys all later. Hopefully you made it to the end and come back again.
All right.
Peace.
Over and out.